Alright, so give me, what is your name and what did you do today?
My name is Andrew, and I did well today with Voiceless voice. So I'm here to do deck profile.
Alright, let's get into it then.
So to start off, we've got 3 low. It's probably the second best card in the deck. It's really good. It's a really good starter. It serves as ritual fodder for the entirety of Skull Guardian. And it comes back if you summon a ritual monster. It doesn't even matter if it was ritual summoned, which means that you can set up on your opponent's turn both barrier and the continuous trap, which makes it so your stuff is protected from targeting, and you have the ability to pop your opponent's cards on their turn.
Okay.
And then next we've got Saphira. This is probably the best starter in the deck. It lets you discard it to send a ritual spell from your deck to the grave and then add a light ritual monster. So typically you use it to add Skull Guardian, but if you want to play around cards like Effect Veiler or Imperm, you can use it to add Surus. And its effect in grave, you banish it, and it lets you ritual summon a monster by tributing. So it's really good for some of those hands where you draw too many of the rituals and you just need to get them out.
Yeah.
And then next we've got the one of Surus. It's not terrible. It lets you recycle your ritual spells and a lot of your power cards like pre-prep, and can even recycle sideboard cards like Super Poly. And whenever your opponent activates anything, you return it to your hand and special summon a, I believe it's dragon or warrior ritual monster from your deck, so you can use it to summon Skull Guardian or Surus, depending on what you're missing or if you just need the extra interaction. Other than that, it's pretty good. It can be the ritual material if you really need it to. I had that come up against Labyrinth, where I had it serve as a material for Skull Guardian, and it's pretty good. Then we've got 2 Skull Guardian. This is a boss monster of the deck. On Ritual Summon lets you add any Voiceless voice card or a Warrior Dragon Ritual monster. So typically you use it to add follow-up, or you use it to add the Surus mentioned earlier. And it's pretty good. It comes with an Omni Negate while you control low, and while low is in your graveyard or on field, it becomes 4100. So it's a pretty good beat stick. It can beat over cards like Chaos Angel and other large guys, as it may be. And next we've got Surus. He's alright. He's pretty good for the deck, but in general, you don't want to see him. In the hand, he can serve as targeting protection for cards like Imperm or Veiler. You just pitch it, negate.
Do you ever think you'd play him at 1?
I've thought about it, but the thing is, it doesn't seem right now. After the new continuous comes out in Legacy of Destruction, I might cut it down to 1 and then play the Odd Eyes Pendulum. But I think that at 2 it's fine for now. Its effect on field is its inherent special summon negate. So if your opponent goes like special Fenrir, you can return it to your hand, negate it, and then banish it. Not the best case, but it's still pretty good. It can come up a couple of times. And then next, we've got the Diviner package. Diviner's one of the better starters for the deck because you can summon it and send Trias, and then you can special the Trias, and
I know what your deck does.
Diviner's Tribute effect will activate, which will let you summon low from deck, and then you can use low for more plays. You can also use it to send cards like Entis or Herald of the Arclight to add ritual monsters or to pop a card your opponent controls. So it comes up quite a bit.
It's so unfortunate because 4-2
and then next, I've got 3 Fenrir.
And I was playing the one field
I've come close to cutting it a few times, but every time I get to that point, it comes up and it like wins me a game.
Oh, he does have triple tech
like
talent.
Today against Centurion, I only opened Fenrir and like no other starters, but off of just Fenrir alone, I was able to win the game.
Wow.
So it can be pretty good for the deck. And then next up, I've got the hand traps, 3 Ash, 3 Nib, and that's all the main deck hand traps. And yes, they are feet Ash, but these were the first ones I bought. They were the cheapest they had, and I've just never replaced them. I'm not playing Droll, because while it's a good card, it, in my opinion, doesn't do enough against Snake Eye or Fire King. Whereas Nib can put an end to their turn, assuming they don't end up with Arvada on their field at some point.
Yeah.
But normally you'll be able to nib them before they get to Arvada.
Sick.
So Nib, in my opinion, can actually be better against Fire King in some cases.
It's fair.
And then next, the
spaced
spell
out.
lineup,
I saw that
we've
actually.
got 3 barrier.
Lost
This
my
is kind of the most important part for Voiceless Voice as a strategy, in my opinion.
Yeah, I guess I saved
While you
Dash.
control low and a light ritual monster,
I
your
don't know, it
opponent
feels
can
just
only
kinda
target
scary,
ritual
yeah.
monsters for attacks, and they just can't target your light monsters. This means that in
Well,
the
like just
Fire King
Princess
matchup,
combo?
if you establish this with Low and Skull Guardian, they can't do things like Flamberge target your Skull Guardian or Promethean Princess, as long as you have only light monsters on field. So it makes it a lot harder for them to eat through your board, and then it allows for a lot of crackback since Skull Guardian is so large.
That card is so good.
It's really good. And then next I've got 2 of the ritual spell. It's alright, you really don't want to draw it, but Engrave, its graveyard effect is really good because if your opponent tries to remove one of your light rituals, you can just banish it and then summon another one from the deck. It's not proper ritual summoning at that point, but it's still pretty good. It means like if your opponent tries to get rid of Skull Guardian, you can just summon another one. And if you hadn't used the Omni up at that point, you have the Omni again. And then I've got one of Called By. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
When you see it, you love to have it, but, you know, it's a one-of, so don't plan around it. And then I've got the 3 Prosperity. It's Prosperity. It lets you dig for things that you might need. It's just a really good card. And going first, you don't really care about the damage. You just want to see the cards you need.
Yeah.
It plays into Droll, but everything plays into Droll, so it's
I
whatever.
just now noticed that. That is
And
weird.
then 3 pre-prep. Pre-prep is probably the best starter. It's, in my opinion, slightly better than Saphira, because even if you do get drolled after pre-prep, most of the time you have everything else you need in the hand already. And since
started my
Low
bamboo.
doesn't need to
I
add the
pinned
card to
some
hand
monsters.
to put it on the field, it means that you can most of the time still end up with the full board through Droll.
That card's insane.
Fine,
It is. If there was a card for the deck to be hit, it would probably be this
Well, I
one,
mean,
although I'd be very sad
Really?
if that were the case. And then one of Radiance,
Now you're
it's alright. I mean, it's effect. If you get it out on your first turn, it's pretty good because it lets you summon Surus without having to add it off of Skull Guardian, which gives you an extra interruption. And on your opponent's turn, it can blow up
You
a
don't
lot
do
of
whale?
stuff. I think today I had it blow up 3 of my opponent's back row, and that was pretty good.
Really?
And then finally, 3 Imperm. It's Imperm. I mean, no one's going to say that this is a bad card unless they've never played with it. And it comes up, especially when going
could play
second
Rest, you're probably just
sometimes.
practice.
And going first is not bad
If you think
either
it- if
to
you
have in
think
the
it's
back
worth
row. And then next up, we've got the extra deck. I've
never
got the Super Poly package, minus the Entis, of course, but it could come up. Out of all of them, these 2 should probably be Guilty of Gearfried and Chaos Angel, but Chaos Angel's still pretty expensive, and Guilty of Gearfried, I haven't needed it yet, so it's not that big.
Now we're telegraphing,
Earthbolt
eh?
Magnister, I haven't made it yet, but it's still pretty good. Against the typical Fire King Snake Eyes board, they end on Flamberge, Ambler Whale, and IP in the back row. So if they summon IP, you can make this, and it's actually a pretty annoying card to get rid of. Entis is a Diviner Send. It makes it a 6, so it gives you potential synchro plays, and it also pops a card on the board, so it's pretty decent. And then Garura, it's really good, especially against decks like Lab. If you make Garura, you can actually make it under the Dark Barrier statue and use it to beat over it and deal a lot of damage. Mud Dragon's pretty good. If you can get it out, you can call light, and then your opponent can't target anyways, which is pretty good. I've literally never made this card. This will be the first thing to cut, probably. And then next, the Synchro Monsters. I've got Baron and Herald of the Arclight.
The next Magic Spectre main
Chaos
deck
Angel
monster
should
needs
be
to
here,
like
but I haven't gotten it yet. This is another good Diviner Send. Like, if you're short a Ritual Monster and you already have access to Low,
Kieran is like, dude,
you can
gay,
just
this is
send this
huge.
instead of
He's also a
Trias,
5-star
and
monster.
get the ritual monster you're missing.
Is he 6 or is he?
And Baron,
I think he's 6.
I did have it come up today.
Yeah, 6-star
It
monsters.
did win me the game
Hilarious.
when it came out. It's like if you have just Skull Guardian on the field, it's kind of awkward. So you can make this instead, and it at least gives you the Omni Negate and some potential follow-up later. And then I've got Typhon. It hasn't come up a lot, but it's a good card, and it makes up for some of the shortcomings of the deck. You can use it to prevent your opponent from making large monsters, or if you go up against the Stray Monadium player, you just make this, and then all of a sudden most of their board does nothing. It does conflict a bit with Skull Guardian if you have both out on the field at the same time, but if you do that, something's wrong, and the game's probably gone on too long to begin with. But it can still happen. And then next to links, I've got Link Karibo, Anima, 2 Dynamondo, Dark, and Little Knight. This should honestly probably be a Lina, but I haven't subbed it out yet. It does come up if you need to like link low off for Link Karibo, because Link Karibo for the deck is pretty good because it helps low dodge targeted negation. Because if it's engraved, you can use its effect to tribute low on the field. So it's not the worst, but this should probably be a Lina, although I don't know what I get off of the Lina. Anima is pretty good. It can come up against players who aren't managing their zones properly. So if your opponent summons their boss to one of the 2 zones Anima can point to, you can just use it to steal it, and it can get a lot of players. You can also use it to clear the nib token if you're having issues. It just doesn't gain the attack, which can suck, but not much you can do about it. The 2 Dynamondo. This card's amazing. Yeah. It's probably the MVP of the extra deck. When I go into the extra deck, this is normally what I'm making the most. It's great for recycling your Link monsters. It helps you get both of the continuous spell and traps out on your opponent's turn. It's just a really, really good card. Yeah. And then SP. It's SP.
SP's SP.
Yeah. I pulled this at pre-release, and I've never gotten rid of it, because why would I?
Fair enough.
And then up next is the side deck. I've got the 3 Droll and Lockbird that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And then some other hand traps that I have is 3 Ghost Bell. Bell is really good for the Labyrinth matchup and can also be good against Fire King. If your opponent doesn't have anything to chain block the Flamberge, or if you really don't want Princess to hit the field, you can use Ghost Bell to stop them. Droll, I mean, it's really good this format. The only deck it really isn't the best against is Snake Eyes in most cases. Like, it can be pretty disastrous for them, but most of the time they'll just have a way to play through it anyways and still end on a pretty good board.
Yeah.
So I'm just keeping it on the side for now. And then I've got the 3 Super Poly. It's a good board breaker, and I've got the package in the extra anyways. So it's pretty good to have, and it comes up quite a bit if I draw it. And even going first, it can be pretty good interaction. You just set it, wait for your opponent to do something, and then you catch them while they least expect it. Yeah. Then I've got Lightning Storm, Duster, and the other Lightning Storm. Ulti Duster, by the way. I haven't really sided these at all. They could probably be something else.
You're just playing Duster for the flex?
Kinda, yeah. But if I were to take these out, I'd probably replace them with just better board breakers, honestly. Maybe Evenly, or maybe Droplet or Dark Ruler. But I don't really think it's wrong to take them out right now, because if you go up against back row heavy decks that can end their game immediately. And then finally, got some Floodgates of my own. Woo! 3 Summon Limit.
Yeah.
You don't really play into Summon Limit that much.
Yeah.
Especially on your first turn. Like, your first turn is pretty much all your setup, but your opponent 100% is going to play into it. Because even on your opponent's turn, the most you really normally do is Dynamondo to bring back your Skull Guardian and low, and then you just sit on that for the rest of the turn. But like, if your opponent's on a combo deck, you can just play Summon Limit and use that against them. And against decks like Fire King, if you flip this up on the effect of Poplar, if they had normal summoned Ash, that pretty much ends their turn on the spot, because Summon Limit counts the summons before.
That's crazy, yeah.
So It's pretty good. I haven't had it come up against Fire King, but if it did, I imagine it would probably win the game almost on the spot there, unless they have like Cosmic or their own back row removal. And
I figured as
yeah, that's the deck.
after
I think
that.
it's pretty good right now. It'll definitely get a lot better after Legacy of Destruction. The new continuous spell lets the deck play through both Shifter and Droll, which are honestly the two biggest pain points for the deck. And I think that after that, it'll probably get a lot better. It won't be better than Fire King or Snake Eye, but hopefully a ban list will come out around then to balance it out and miss Voiceless Voice, I pray. And that's the deck.
Alrighty, thank you.
Easy.
Like a spider